Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're going to entirely change how you look at your own biology. I want you to stop thinking of your body as just a collection of cells and organs, and start picturing it as a heavily fortified castle. We're talking high walls, guarded gates, and a seriously complex internal security system. But right outside those walls, gathering in the shadows, is an army. We are constantly about to be sieged by tiny, highly specialized, microscopic invaders. And their one and only mission is to get inside. So, how exactly do these microscopic invaders pull it off? I mean, think about a viral infection not just as getting sick, but as a literal high-stakes heist. Your immune system has evolved over millions of years to build these formidable, practically impenetrable defenses. Yet viruses constantly find a way in. How do they pick the locks? How are they bypassing the guards? Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1. Breaching the human fortress. If we map out the blueprint of our bodily castle, the major vulnerabilities become pretty obvious right away. Our skin is an incredibly tough outer wall, sure, but a castle still needs gates to let supplies in and out. Notice the major portals of entry here. You've got the respiratory tract through the nose and mouth, the alimentary tract running through our digestive system, and the urogenital tract down below. These are the necessary openings where our defenses are naturally at their thinnest, making them absolute prime targets for a coordinated attack. But what if the invaders don't want to use the main gates? That brings us to Section 2, Vectors, Bites, and Blood. If an invader can't just walk right through the front door, they bypass the walls entirely, using brute force, or by hitching a ride. To do this, viruses use what's called a vector, basically a carrier, usually an arthropod, like an insect, that transmits an infectious agent from one host to another. Think of vectors as tiny living Trojan horses. The virus hides inside them, completely bypassing our external defenses, just waiting for the exact moment the vector pierces our armor. Now, what's really wild is just how common these Trojan horses actually are. We're talking mosquitoes and ticks, the real-world culprits breaching our skin on a daily basis. When a mosquito bites you, it's not just taking blood. It's actively injecting saliva to stop your blood from clotting. And if that mosquito happens to be carrying a virus, well, that saliva acts as a high-speed elevator, dropping the invaders directly into your bloodstream, completely undetected by the guards on the outer wall. And when the vector is a larger animal, say an infected dog or a raccoon, the physical trauma of a bite forcefully breaks the skin. But here's where it gets crazy. Take the rabies virus. It doesn't just hang out in the blood, it specifically targets the peripheral nervous system. It literally uses our own nerve fibers as a private high-speed highway to travel straight up the spinal cord and directly into the brain. It's a terrifyingly efficient invasion strategy. Of course, not all breaches are natural. Honestly, we compromise our own fortress walls all the time. Human-made tools like shared hypodermic needles or improperly sterilized tattoo equipment provide direct inoculation routes. In these cases, we are physically bypassing the skin layer ourselves and dropping the invaders straight into the circulatory system. Let's shift gears to Section 3, the respiratory highway. If vectors are the sneaky side door entries, the respiratory tract is the grand, wide-open front gate. It is the single most common route of viral entry. And the reason is just simple mathematics and biology. We have to breathe to survive, inhaling thousands of liters of air every single day. Because of this non-negotiable biological necessity, the main gates of our respiratory fortress are essentially locked open. And the resulting siege, it's literally explosive. Just look at a visceral sneeze. This is droplet transmission in action. When an infected person sneezes, they forcefully launch millions of microscopic viral particles right into the air. These droplets just hang out, waiting for someone else to take a deep breath. It is an invisible cloud of invaders actively looking for a new open gate. Once inside, the virus lands in this lush, frankly bizarre alien landscape of ciliated cells lining our respiratory tract. These tiny hair-like structures are constantly beating, trying to sweep mucus and trapped invaders back up and out of the body. So the virus has to successfully navigate this moving, completely hostile forest to find a cell it can actually infect before it gets swept away into the acid pit of the stomach. So, the crucial point is, invaders are incredibly opportunistic. Let's look at Section 4, Other Paths of Invasion. If the respiratory gate is guarded, or they don't have a vector, they've got other sneaky paths. Take the alimentary tract, our digestive system. Fun, everyday social activities can unwittingly introduce viral invaders. Sharing a toast from the same bottle, or accidentally swallowing a little bit of water while playing in a communal swimming pool, these are direct deliveries of localized viruses into the digestive system. You're basically voluntarily lowering the drawbridge. And sometimes the breach is super localized. Even the conjunctiva, that thin membrane covering your eye, is a portal. Your eyes are constantly exposed to the environment, and a simple rub with a contaminated finger can lead to a localized breach. The virus sets up a small camp right there on the surface, resulting in what we commonly call pink eye. Now we have to talk about the absolute most heavily guarded inner sanctum of the human body, a developing fetus. Most invaders have zero chance of crossing the placenta, but medical professionals use this handy acronym, TORCHES, to remember the specific elite invaders that can bypass maternal defenses. We're talking toxoplasmosis, rubella, cytomegalovirus, herpes simplex, syphilis, and a few others lumped into that other category, including HIV. These specific pathogens possess the unique molecular keys required to breach the deepest, most protected vault of the human fortress. Which leads us to Section 5, localized versus systemic spread. Once a breach actually happens, what's next? Does the invading army just set up a small beachhead? Or do they launch a campaign to conquer the entire kingdom? Well, it all comes down to their game plan for release. In a localized infection, viruses replicate and are released apically, meaning they exit from the top surface of the cell, back into the open space they came from, like the airway or the gut, dispersing locally. But in a systemic spread, the virus uses a basolateral release. It exits from the bottom of the cell, diving deep into the underlying tissues. This basolateral dive grants them access to the bloodstream and lymphatic vessels, the internal highways of the body, allowing for a full systemic takeover of multiple organs. It's basically the difference between capturing a single watchtower and storming the entire castle. And that brings us to the climax of the story, Section 6, Shedding and the Great Escape. An invader's mission within one host is ultimately a total failure unless it can successfully escape to find a new one. A virus that kills its host without spreading? It lost the war. This escape process is called viral shedding. The virus has to find a way out of the fortress it's just conquered. It utilizes bodily secretions, sneezes, coughing, or even broken blood vessels to physically exit the body in massive numbers. It is the ultimate exit strategy, dispersing the freshly replicated virus back into the environment to start the whole cycle all over again. Let's pull it all together and see how this builds. The entire mechanical heist, the life cycle of invasion, really follows 3 distinct steps. First, breach the portal of entry. Find an open gate or use a vector to bypass the wall. Second, establish localized or systemic infection. Hold a local territory or dive basolaterally for a systemic takeover. And third, shed and transmit. Execute the Great Escape to conquer the next fortress. So what does this all mean for us? It leaves us with a pretty massive, critical thought. If we can completely map every single microscopic step of this invader's journey, if we know every lock, every gate, and every escape hatch, is this the ultimate key to stopping the next pandemic? Understanding this microscopic battlefield is the very foundation of how we develop vaccines, antivirals, and public health strategies. We fortify the castle by knowing exactly how the enemy plans to siege it. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep your fortress defenses strong and keep asking questions.